Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds a bilateral meeting with China's Xi Jinping 5 years after their last meeting. Earlier at the BRICS summit in Russia, the Prime Minister said that dialogue and diplomacy is the only way forward. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's big bilateral meeting with Xi Jinping after 5 years. The Prime Minister has stressed on peace on borders. He has said that that should be the priority. Bengaluru building collapse. 8 people have been declared dead. Bengaluru building owner has been arrested now. The Karnataka Chief Minister could also be visiting the collapse site. Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi files nomination from Wayanad, which used to be her brother's constituency. Priyanka Gandhi also led a roadshow before filing her nomination. This marks her electoral debut, and the elections will be held on the 13th of November. Supreme Court slams centre over stubble burning. The top court has also grilled Punjab and Haryana state government. Supreme Court has said that all action taken on stubble fires is just an eyewash. Centre has blasted X over hoax calls to airlines in the midst of a barrage of hoax calls received by airlines in the last few days. The Union Ministry of Electronics and IT has slammed social media platform X. Says that the social media platform was abetting crime in stopping the spread of such alerts. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching NDTV. Bengaluru has been reeling under incessant rain for the past 3 days, bringing several residential areas and roads under knee-deep water. In fact, heavy rains have caused severe waterlogging in several parts of Bengaluru. Even as the city battles severe flooding, its infrastructure problems have taken another hit. In fact, a video shared on X has gone viral showing a physically challenged woman falling into a water-filled pothole during heavy rains near Halasali. In fact, while the video has sparked outrage over BBMP's failure to maintain the city's roads, with residents and opposition leaders now voicing their anger over this incident, an under-construction building in Bengaluru has collapsed with nearly 20 workers working in it. In fact, that also led to the deaths of at least 8 people. Bhuvan Reddy, the owner of the multi-story building, has now been arrested. The building contractor, Muniappa, has also been detained for further investigation into what could have been potential violations. Clearly, Bengaluru, the IT capital of the country, the dream destination for investors, deserves more. Joining me now is Priya Chetty Rajagopal. We also have Sudhir Krishna, who is the former Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development, Government of India. Thank you, both of you, for joining me on this show. Priya, to you first. Tell us the problems that people of Bengaluru are facing, because the Civic body has said nearly 100 lakes are overflowing and 1,500 houses have been affected. So there are overflowing lakes, there are flooded roads, there are potholes. How has everyday life been impacted in Bengaluru?
The weather has been extremely erratic in the last few days. So there's been heavy rain, there's a lot of sunshine. So one really doesn't know what is happening. But, to put it in context, the thing that we're really focused on is the building collapse right now. And that has, I think, as little to do with the rain as to do with structural issues and the lack of focus on the building bylaws that BBMP has set up many years ago. So this has happened about 2021. It's happening again now. So the weather is I think, just one trigger which has resulted in the loss of so many lives. And I'm sure there are probably a few more people stuck inside that the building. What concerns me is that the bylaws, the kind of checklist that exists in terms of giving sanctions are not being followed. Now, this may sound like a cliche, but it only is found out in the breach. That is when something like this happens. And I think if we were just to do a quick analysis of maybe 60 buildings in that area, you will find that about 40 of them either don't have a sanction or at least will have been bypassed by BBMP or not even been checked at all. So these are concerns because these are lives. And this is something that is really, really concerning me in terms of the long-term safety of residents in the city. Right. So I would certainly accede to your point about the issue being primarily about the weather and the tremendous rain. But that's something that does happen every now and then. We just cannot be so unprepared. And secondly, how will the building sanctions and the bylaws be more firmly and more strongly sort of put into place
Right.
in the months and years to come.
Right. Priya, also tell us, the kind of action that the state government is taking with respect to arresting the contractor, the building owner. Do you think that is something that has been reassuring, or do you think that is that's just procedural?
It's procedural. I mean, what else can they do? I mean, could they not arrest somebody? Could they sort of they would have to take some action, and the most obvious person is the contractor. My question is, go back into which area this BBMP site comes under. Go back into who gave the sanction, if at all. Go back to the revenue inspector who's under whose purview this comes, and I think there make an arrest,
Right.
because that's the only thing that will send out a strong, a message that this is to be prevented, not actioned
Right.
subsequently. The prevention is, you can't lose lives. And you
Right.
can't lose it on predictable, preventable issues like this. It really worries me. So I'm asking you, there is a system in place. We are not following it. The contractor certainly it has to be penalized and certainly has to be punished.
Right.
But what about the structure that we depended on to make sure this doesn't happen?
Right.
Please take strong action there.
Right. Sudhir Krishna, how do you deal with infra mess or these issues in cities like Bengaluru, which also have legacy issues? There are people talking about frequent installation of underground cables or pipelines. There are also this perpetual stormwater drain problem in Bengaluru. Then, of course, potholes. We talk about quality of road networks, the kind of material that's being used. Building sustainable infrastructure that can actually withstand seasonal weather impacts. But what do you do about these legacy problems, problems that have taken years for it to be built and now probably will take years for it to be solved?
Absolutely. So at the outset, I thank you for taking up this issue because the matter of infrastructure is very serious and it is impacting the situation like what has happened now. So there are two dimensions to it. One is planning and second is governance. So planning part is so very crucial now, more than ever before, because people are migrating to cities and it is an unending migration. We have not enough migration now. Just about 35% of population is in cities. It will go up to 50% in the next 10 to 12 years. So many more people will come to cities and cities have to be prepared with proper infrastructure. In the absence of that, unauthorized construction and people constructing converting their single story building into four story and using small open spaces to construct multi story like what you are showing on the screen, all that will put serious pressure on the existing infrastructure. So detailed planning of the cities are required, and along with that, we have developed satellite towns, and satellite towns has to be an unending story. Bangalore is doing excellent, by developing satellite town ring road. It must be taken up soon and completed soon. Around the satellite town ring road, new township should come. So people should move away from the core Bangalore rather than creating, more and more pressure on the existing cities. And if we don't allow people to go outside, by providing proper infrastructure and facilities in those areas, then this is going to happen. And of course, governance is the second part.
Right.
We should have, in this case, accountability is not only for that case which has happened. Should we not take it as a general case for the entire city of Bangalore and even beyond all cities to
Right.
take a look at the unauthorized construction as to what is going on? Chintal Paradiso is a very talked about case in Gurgaon,
Right.
where the whole multi-story building properly allowed to be constructed, even that is collapsing and people are being asked to vacate. So it's a very serious matter. Governance of the cities require more manpower, qualified manpower, properly trained, and all those things are now. We have to prepare for it. Yesterday's manpower cannot handle tomorrow's cities. This is a new challenge now for us, which we have to recognize and prepare for.
So upskilling of manpower is also an important issue. Also, Priya, those are very valid points. Also, some of the things that you said, particularly lives getting lost because of these violations, which could have been easily checked. When you talk about other infra problems in the city, there is also the story of extremes, because you see, the Deputy Chief Minister talk about tunnel roads and sky decks. There are also, it's the IT capital, so there are many innovations that we keep reading about when it comes to Bengaluru. At the same time, there are these basic pressing issues, crumbling roads, constant flooding. What is your expectation from the government specifically with regard to solving these very basic issues?
See, vision is required for the city. See, localized development is not going to solve the problem. Vision means, we have to have a water plan for the city, drainage plan. How much water comes in a rainfall and comes into the city? How much water comes out of the sewerage system, and where does it go? How much we can recycle and put to reuse for the entire Bangalore and even little beyond also area. That is a number, and similarly road network also, from where people origin destination, OD surveys are required, from where people are coming to which place they are going, what kind of transportation systems are required. And with the satellite imagery facility and the software availability, these things are not at all difficult and not at all costly.
Right.
But what is required is a visionary planning, for which the whole system is available, but I think a determined action is required. I suggest that, this is a good time now. Some such incidents should trigger thought process now, not merely penalizing or punishing one culprit here,
Right.
or thinking
So
about
accountability
resolving
is
the
key here.
problem
Priya, would you
there.
like to answer that?
Yes. I think the collective intelligence of Bangalore is very high, So this is repeatedly, sort of denigrating and insulting the intelligence of very sound, very concerned and very participative Bangalore citizens. Now, if there is an overarching policy and a set of rules that have been put into place, I think it should not be just left as something that is aspirational. It should be absolutely implemented and checked for implementation. Now, departures like the akrama sakrama and all that just encourage corruption and encourage more violations in the future. And the shock of this, that it's a 15 to 20 square feet road with a 6-story construction. It is beyond even logic that this can be imagined. And newer places as they're coming up, there are people perhaps with may not that kind of stretch to invest in site engineers or to check on the soil testing, etc. But this is part of BBMP's and the Town and Country Planning Council's duty.
Right.
So this really needs to be done. So even if I'm overemphasizing this, there are some very basic things that really need to be actioned. What galls me, and I'm sure that you must be feeling the same way, that this is not a new story. It happened in 23, it happened in 2011, the walls collapsed somewhere else. It's happening in multiple cities, so we're not alone in that.
Right.
But there's no joy in claiming that we're not alone in these kind of tragedies. The fact is also, which is a little tragic, that the people who died here were building workers.
Right.
So migrant workers may not be missed by somebody over here. So we will move on. Tomorrow will be another day.
Right.
But what are the credis of the world, or the district commissioner? There's a new district commissioner I think we have in town. What are we doing to implement? I would strongly suggest there should be surprise checks being laid out. There should be the Bangalore minister should be held accountable for making sure it filters down, right down the ranks.
So a sense of accountability, I think, is the most important thing here. Thank you, Mr. Sudhir Krishna. Thank you, Priya, for joining us on this broadcast. And like Priya said, what holds good for Bengaluru today also holds good for other leading cities. Clearly, it is not just Bengaluru that's going through this, but of course, solutions have to be urgent. Solutions have to be specific. We need a lot of fixing when it comes to urban centers of the country. Here's a look at what really happened in Bengaluru with regard to this urban mess that we're talking about.
As heavy rains triggered an infrastructure collapse in the IT city with waterlogged roads, a building collapse in Bengaluru's Babu Sapalya left the citizens outraged. The building, which had 2 illegal floors, has raised questions on unauthorized structures in the city and the substandard material used to build them. While the owner of the building has been arrested, what is the government doing to prevent a repeat?
We will take strict action against the owner, the contractor and everyone. Where all such type of illegal construction are going on, we are going to stop immediately. I'll conduct a big survey on this. I'll inform the concerned registrars also not to accept any transfer of property, such type of property which there are no plans sanctioned.
Since the collapse at 4:40 p.m. on the 22nd of October, the police, the SDRF and NDRF have been working at the site to rescue the survivors and clear the debris.
यहाँ पे हम हेलिंग सर्च, कनाइन सर्च और जो भी टेक्निकल सर्च में हमारे पास इक्विपमेंट है, लाइव डिटेक्टर 1 और अभी हमने रडार मंगाया है।
This is a hard-hitting lesson. Be it the crippling infrastructure, illegal construction or unlawful encroachments, a lot has to be done. The state government has promised action, but the question is if this action will be stringent enough to work as a deterrent and make Bengaluru a better place. With camera person Govind, Pratibha Raman in Bengaluru for NDTV.